Yeah, the closer. Amazing. Thank you. Beautiful. Good stuff. Yeah, I'll see it. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our class. We are studying Alshech Kabalah, which is really just Kabbalah. We are studying the first article of the Baal Sulam, which is called Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. This is usually the Baal Sulam, Rabbi Alshech, who wrote the Perush on the Zohar, and he also wrote many articles for the modern audience who would want to start to learn Kabbalah. So these articles are meant to orient the new student to what the method of Kabbalah is and what it's trying to accomplish. And so we've been studying this article called Matan Torah, and we're going to jump in, we're going to review, because unlike some other studies, we're trying to reprogram we're trying to amazing student. I'll start again because you can't. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our class. We are learning Alshech Kabbalah, and we are studying an introductory article of the Baal Sulam Rabbi Alshech, who did a lot of work. He's the preeminent Kabbalist of this generation because he wrote for a modern audience. And so we are studying articles. He wrote many articles, and when you start studying Kabbalah, you start by learning these articles. These articles are meant to reorient the student and to explain to the student what Kabbalah is and why we would want to study Kabbalah and what it is, what it intends to accomplish. And so that's what we're doing here. So let's start with a review. And before I review, I just want to say that what we're trying to do here is like the analogy they give is like a camera lens, where you're focused on a certain plane of reality. And so what Kabbalah is trying to do is trying to refocus you to a more spiritual degree of consciousness, okay? So like refocusing the camera. So things can be right in front of us, and they are in this world. Things are very, very right in front of us, but we're not focused on them. And so we don't see them, and we have to learn how to tune our inner world to tune ourselves so that we can appreciate that there is a lot of spiritual energy that is being sent in our direction that we're missing, that we don't have the proper vessels to understand and to receive this information. The information is called the light that it forms. It means that the Torah is called light. One of the metaphors is called light, and light is meant to shine on you and change you. And so God is not going to change. We're going to change, and that's what we're studying, how to change and why. Okay, so let's start with a review from the very beginning. The Ari HaKodesh says that why was this world created? Everything that we see in this world was created for one reason, because it arose in God's mind to give over goodness to somebody. So basically, God had a desire that he wanted to give. He wanted to love. He wanted to have a relationship, and everything that we see in our world is flows from that desire that God had. And so the first question is, so then why does the world look so terrible? If God is all powerful and God is all good, then why is it that the world has so much suffering and so many problems, right? That's a very good question. And so the answer is that, I want to make sure, is that recording? I think it is. Oh yeah, I see the recording. Okay, yeah. So the question is, if God is so all powerful and all good, then why does the world seem to be filled with suffering and all these, confusion and disappointment, right? And so we've answered is that God created, as soon as God desired to give over goodness, all this pleasure came off of God, and it immediately went into a vessel. It was completely received, that's called the world of Ein Sof and Kabbalah, that all the pleasure went inside a vessel, meaning everything that God wanted to give over was immediately given over. But there was a problem, the Ari HaKodesh tells us. The problem was that God wanted more, that this was really just a beginning stage in the creative process. And so the problem with that is that there were three problems. One is that the pleasure was so overwhelmingly good that there was no place for the creature, that's all of us, all the souls that God created, to experience a sense of self, a sense of identity. And so because of that God wanted the process to unfold. And so there was something else. And what else is there is that there was no free will. We weren't entering into this relationship. So if I came to you and I said, I'm giving you $1 million, there would be very little free will in that relationship. You'd say, give it to me, right? Of course you would. And so that is not a relationship that is mutually pleasurable for the giver and the receiver, because a person has to have a sense of self and be able to take care of themselves and stand on their own 2 feet, and then from that place of being so we know that when you enter into a marriage, you enter into a relationship, if you are a substantial person who is self-sufficient, and you have character, and you have the ability to make decisions, then you're able to enter into a relationship. So there was no relationship at that point in the creative process, even though all the pleasure was being felt by the creation. We don't remember this collective state of the soul, which is what I said, the world of Ein Sof, the world of infinity, where this was being experienced. This is before our material world came into existence. And so there was one more problem, is that we didn't do anything to earn the relationship, to earn all the pleasure. So we know in this world that if somebody gives you something every single day, after a while, let's say your parents are very wealthy and they pay for everything, when you get to 14, 15, 16 years old, all of a sudden you're not so happy with the relationship. Why? Because your parents are giving you everything and you're taking everything, but you don't really you're not on equal footing. You're not standing on your own, on your own feet, and you're not able to, you didn't do anything. And you say, I want to go out and I want to get a job and I want to make my own money. Why do people do that? Because of this reason. It's because God created the world in this way that we would feel that we want to have our independence. We want to feel that we're accomplishing something. And so because of that, the created being decided, it's called Simsum Aleph, and this is when we'll go back into the article now, but I went down this road, so I have to explain that we have Simsum Aleph, which is where the created being, all of the souls together, said, you know what, I don't like this relationship anymore. I don't feel that it's working for me. And God made this as part of the program. So all the souls got together and said, it was at that point it felt like one big soul, and said, I don't want anything for free anymore. I want to earn it. And that's called Simsum Aleph. So all of the light was pushed out of the vessel, and from that place we started to distance ourselves from the Creator. And when we get to this material world, we see that we're in a world where we feel that we exist, but we don't feel that God exists. So it's the exact opposite of, so we say, why do we need to be in this physical world? Because this physical world, we know that the word world, olam, means, you speak Hebrew well? How do you say hidden?
Sof?
No, hidden. The word...
Esther,
the word world
is
olam, means, has to write, the same root, right. So the word, in Hebrew, the word for world also means hidden. So the question is, what's hidden in this world? And so what's hidden in this world is God's existence. So why did God hide his existence? Why is it in this world that you see people don't believe in God, or you have to have faith that God exists, but you don't see God? And so that is by design, because God wanted to create an environment where we would have free will, a sense of self, and an ability to earn everything that we get. So from this place, we can start to build back, there's an expression now, build back better, which is it's a political slogan that's used a lot, but the truth is that it's a good slogan, because that's exactly where we are, that we are in the lowest world, called the material world, and from this place where we feel ourselves, and we feel our selfish nature, our ego, and we feel like we're locked in that, from that place is where we can actually start to climb the ladder of consciousness back to this place where we can experience godliness and anew so the creation we learn Kabbalah is like a magic trick. On the one hand, we're trying to get to a place where we feel God's, we say in Torah Judaism, Ein Od Milvado, that there's nothing else but God. So can you imagine a state of consciousness where we're going to get to where we don't feel that there's anything else but God, a complete nullification of the self, okay? You're going to feel like, people do Halacha, we say, for example, people do drugs and they feel they have an outer body experience, they feel that they feel the oneness with the universe, and they no longer feel their ego, right? Their ego is somehow broke free of the ego. So if you imagine a state like that where we have this complete awareness that God is everything, that God made everything, and God is making everything, completing everything at every single moment, and there's nothing else but God in the entire universe, including what we're made up of. And so that's an incredible state, but at the same time, we're going to have our ego intact. That's what's very special about Kabbalah, is that in some other systems. They try to destroy the ego and leave the ego behind. But that's not what we're doing in Torah Judaism. In Kabbalah, what we're doing is we're trying to build a dual system called Musar and Kabalah, a double level cave. Right? Why do we have a double level cave? Why did Abraham have two wives? One that was not Abraham, it was Yaakov. One that manifests the physical and one that manifests the spiritual, right? Rachel and Leah. These are two different states in Kabbalah. And so what we're saying, I know we're saying a lot, just let it kind of roll over you, that what we are trying to accomplish, which is so complicated in the creation process, is that we want to be in a place where we experience the oneness of God and at the same time experience ourselves. Two opposite things, two oppositional forces. That's why we see in Kabbalah, everything is how do you build on top of oppositional forces. You have Chesed and Gevura, right? You have left and right, man and woman, day and holy and mundane, all these different dualistic, the whole entire Kabbalistic chart is all these dualistic forces, right? So if you think about it, the entire project is one big formula for taking oppositional forces and putting them together. So our existence and God's infinite existence. So how do we have these two things at once? They're opposites, fire and water. How can you put together the fact that God is everything and you still feel yourself? Now you understand that's exactly that's the method that we are doing. It's called Torah and mitzvos. And so
that was the whole challenge with the drug-induced altered state, or the other other alternative states, is that the ego always came back in. You woke up the next morning or the next month or whatever it is, but there was that ego again. You never could have the both at once.
Absolutely. So one of our star students here is talking about how what's wrong with drugs. Why not just use drugs? And so first of all, we just said that one of the purposes of creation is to earn what we got. So we're not trying to get back to the same place because we could have just stayed there. So if we wanted to stay in a place where we were just high, we just felt this fantastic feeling, then we would have stayed in this world of Ein Sof. We wouldn't have had this cascading of all these lower worlds until we get to the physical world. We wouldn't have needed that. So because we want to earn what we're doing, drugs becomes a shortcut. If you're just going to pop a pill or do some mushrooms or some psychedelics and you're going to feel this out of ego experience, it might be a nice reference point to see what we're talking about. But as far as being a shortcut for achieving the purpose of creation, it's not going to work that way. So and like we said, the ego, here's the funny thing, is in Kabbalah, and this is how we should have a class where we have more of a dialogue. It's very good. So the irony, or it's something that's not expected, is that in Kabbalah, along with your selflessness growing, as you go higher in the world, as you become less selfish, as you become more interested in giving, you become equivalency of form with the Creator, with Hashem, you become more similar to Him, meaning you're focused on giving, because God doesn't have any need to take from anybody, because He has everything. So God is in the aspect of giving. So the more we become like God, the more we feel God, right? So, what was the point we were just making?
Just that the ego comes back anyway.
So
and then we've lost the altered state.
So very interesting. So this is a beautiful question. It's a beautiful point you're making. In Kabbalah, we're actually growing the ego. We're not making the ego smaller. This is what people don't understand, is that people think, oh, so you have some other philosophies. I'm not an expert in Eastern philosophies or religious spiritual practices, but from the little bit that I know, just from being a modern person and being in the modern world, that some of these systems, they try to don't want anything, right? I don't want anything. Every wanting is pain, and therefore I don't want anything. And so this is not at all what we're studying in Kabbalah. Actually, in Kabbalah, we need to have a bigger vessel, because the vessels need to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we had said this many times, and we'll go back to it, is that if I love pizza and I can eat 6 pieces of pizza, that may seem like a lot of pizza, but if I have 30 friends, I can eat 1 piece of pizza, and my friends eat all of them. I pay for the pizza, and they all eat the pizza. I've now, through their vessels, I've now eaten 31 pieces of pizza. So we grow our ego, we grow our capacity to feel things, but we grow it in an inverse, with an inverse character instead of being taker and giver, right? So some guy can have a very large family and he works all day, right? So he's working all day, but he's thinking about his kids and his wife and the vacations and the Passover vacation. He's thinking about all these things that he has to pay for other people, for his family. And if he's paying for people in his community, if he's very wealthy, that's even better. People who are further away from him, right? But if a person is selfish and they just think about themselves and they're running around and they're just, everything that they're doing is for themselves, then that's, that is the problem. That's not the right. So we want to be big spenders, but we want to be having people who are not us, outside of our own egoistic self. In other words, we want to put the light in the right vessel in Kabbalistic terms, right? We want to enjoy all the bounty in life, but we want to enjoy it through other people's vessels. Okay?
Yep.
It's a lot that we're saying so much. I didn't need to go into the deep, but I like that we're talking now. It's much better. Okay. Let me see what else before we go into the actual words. So before we go on, I just want to say some more things that when we say Kabbalah, we're really talking about Torah and mitzvos. Torah, mitzvos, and Kabbalah are the same thing, and the Baal Shalom makes that point. He says there's absolutely no difference between the revealed Torah and the internal Torah. The problem is if there's a problem, the hurdle is, do we understand what we're trying to accomplish? And so if we don't understand what we're trying to accomplish, that's why as the generations, as we got closer and closer to Mashiach consciousness, and the world became more selfish and more egoistic and more busy, it's much, much harder for us to understand what the Torah is really talking about. And so that's why we've moved in the later generations to study more communities of Torah, the inside of the Torah. So the inside of the Torah is literally just the methodology for transcending the ego. And so that's why it's very important in this generation that we study Kabbalah, because you see that people can even be involved in Torah and mitzvos, which is a beautiful thing, but not quite understand what the purpose is, not understand that there's some methodology at play here, that we're really supposed to, there's an evolution of consciousness happening, and we're supposed to be transformed. And so, the more we study...
Through making the vessel bigger for everyone, not self-centered, like you said, not just for ourselves.
That's the whole thing.
That's amazing.
So
increase the ego through uniting with other people. Obviously, there's people.
We're really trying to build 5 levels on top of the soul. So these are all on top of our ego. These are really souls that are, but the way that we perceive everything is through our ego. So we have to, there's a paradox here, because it's called a sixth sense in Kabbalah, where we have a vessel that we're not using yet, the spiritual vessel, the altruistic vessel, and that's the vessel that all of this information this light is supposed to go into, but we still need the ego to experience, to root us in the material world. This is something that we're going to clarify over many years of study. But it's like a horse. They say in Kabbalah, it's like a Mashiach is going to come on a riding on a donkey. And a donkey is materialism. So we need our materialistic life in order to experience spirituality. So there's a paradox there. The whole thing is one big paradox. Okay. The last thing that I want to say is that that Torah and mitzvos, the system of Torah and mitzvos, Kabbalah, achieves many things. And so one of the things that it achieves is peace on earth. As people become more aware of their spiritual powers and their spiritual, the pleasure that they will get from spirituality, the people will rein in their materialism. They will be able to, so you see somebody is, let's say, an athlete, and they're trying to they will try to win a big race, right? So all of a sudden they have they're able to control what they're eating, and they're able to control their sleep, and they're able to control all of these things that people have a very hard time controlling. Why is that? Because they have a higher goal. And so once we start to enter into spirituality and start to see the value and see the pleasure and the reward and the fulfillment that we get on the spiritual planes, we will be able to much more naturally come into balance in our physicality, and that's going to be part of what allows the world to come into balance, and different nations don't know where their borders are, and all these different issues, right? And so that's all stuff that is it's all one thing. Everything is, that's the beautiful thing about Kabbalah, is that it answers every single question, because there's only really one problem. The one problem is that our egos and we're selfish.
Amen. Nice.
So,
There you go. Yeah.
one more thing before I go into the actual world, I want to say that I took some notes here, but try to hit some of the big points that we've gone through already. Is how does this have anything to do with prophecy? How does our achieving this balance with creation and inverting our nature from being selfish to being altruistic, how does this increase prophecy? Right? We know that when Mashiach comes, there's going to be more people. Prophecy is going to return. So, what the vessel in which we experience godliness and we experience the transcendent is a vessel that's a collective vessel. It's in between us. And so the reason why I don't have use of this vessel is because I am, in my mind, in my heart, I'm more important than you are. So if there comes time to eat, I'm going to make sure that I eat more than I'm going to make sure that you eat. If it comes to paying my rent, I'm going to pay my rent first, and then maybe I might help you out if I feel like it, if you're my best friend, but probably not. So that is a gate that keeps us from experiencing. In other words, I'm not going to experience God through you. In other words, I'm not going to, you ever have this experience where you're thinking, you're having a conversation with God, and then all of a sudden somebody walks over to you and they say exactly what you were thinking about and talking to God, and literally they're giving you the answer, and you're like, whoa, I just can't, so you just have this feeling, oh, God just spoke to me through this person. Or another example would be is if you're walking in nature and you start to feel that, oh, I belong, the air, I feel the air is coming out of the trees, it's going into me, and I feel that I feel the unity, right? This is an integral, I feel how the world is an integral system. So the truth is that is something that is many more times more powerful that we don't, this is information that we don't have at our disposal, because it's called in Kabbalah godless, katlus and godless, meaning that there's bigness and smallness. So when I put myself above you, that is what stops the godly flow from coming through you to me, because I put up a barrier. I've said that I'm more important than you. So when I am in katlus, when I lower myself, and so when we study Kabbalah, we're supposed to have a group of 10 men and the women who support us, and we are supposed to all be in katlus. So we do the work, we do the study, and somehow we impress upon each other that I'm the lowest one here, and everybody feels that. And so when everybody feels that, there's a collective energy. It's like putting the electricity through the circuit. Until the electricity goes through, it's not just a hunk of metal. And then when the electricity goes through, now you have a radio or you have a blender, right? So there's no electrical charge between us because the vessels are broken. And so why are the vessels broken? Because we feel ourselves and we don't feel other people. But in Kabbalah we learned that there's always an example in materialism for anything that we might learn. There's always at least one example in this world. And so the example in this world would be a mother and her child. So a mother naturally feels her child. It's the same. So a child, if a mother is sitting with food, she'll gladly put the food into her kid's mouth, and then she might take a bite, but she'll put it back in. So both of those mouths and stomachs are hers, and she feels. So if the child is unhappy, she's unhappy, right? So you see, if you can imagine that kind of relationship being grown and being increased to all of humanity, and we do that slowly. We do this first by doing it with ourselves and our people that we're learning with, and then we do it with our community, and then we do it with our city, and then we do it with our country, and then all the countries, each country has their own unique personality, right? And then we start to put this whole thing together like it's called like a spiritual body. So we have all these different organs, and we don't know which organ we are. We don't know how to put the whole thing together. So like, well, I'm busy fighting with you because I'm the lungs and you're the stomach, and I want some of the, I want the calories, you want the calories, and we're trying to fight over everything. But then when the baby is born, the whole system comes online, and there's no longer these cells. Like when you introduce you, when I introduce myself to you, I don't say, oh, my stomach is named Bob, and my lungs are Tony, and my ears are. You don't do that, right? Because you have there's an awareness that everything is one system, but you don't walk through life like that. You do with your family and your things, right? So if you're, we're saying a lot of stuff and we're jumping around, but I think this is the right way to do it. So I'm going to go into the text. I'm just going to start reading some of the text that I underline, because I think it's where we're up to. Our sages tell us about that the world has not been created but for the purpose of keeping Torah and mitzvahs. Meaning, as our sages have explained, that the aim of the Creator from the time He created His creation is to reveal His godliness to others. This is because the revelation of His godliness reaches the creatures as pleasant bounty that is ever growing until it reaches the desired measure. Okay? That doesn't sound like the world that we live in. Okay, so we just explained that we're in a developmental process, and so ultimately, when we get to this place where we all become one integral system, where we all love each other, and we all feel connected to each other, what we are going to experience is that everything was made for this purpose of making us happy and bringing us pleasure, and the pleasure that we will receive is called devekut with Hashem, which means connection with Hashem. And so, if you have a trouble imagining what that might mean, just imagine the day that you are, if you're married, imagine the first time when you fell in love with your wife, and imagine that how taking a bus ride becomes amazing, and having a slice of pizza is amazing, and everything, joke is funny, and everything. So what was missing? Why is my day not like that every single day of my life now? Why don't I feel that? Because the love is missing. And so when you put the love into that, you will immediately see that everything becomes wondrous and wonderful and pleasurable and fantastic. And so that is really the secret of Torah and mitzvahs. That's where we are headed. And the fact that sometimes it seems like we're in the exact opposite of that place is all stuff that's covered in Kabbalah, and that we have to start to understand. And the more we understand that, the more we can be doing the work, regardless of whether or not we are in a state of an aliyah, ascension, where we feel that we are moving into the oneness and feeling that all the great, wonderful things are happening, or we feel the opposite of that. Both of those things are states of consciousness where, when you start to become a master Kabbalist, when you start to understand the method, you can realize that both of those states, Rav Nachman talks about it, all the masters talk about it, the Hasidic masters, that there is work to do when you are in a good place, and there's work to be done when you're in the place that is very, very difficult. Okay? I'll just say here before we move on is that the tzaddikim, the righteous people, the people who are connected to God, actually prefer the state of darkness to the state of light. And so the answer would be, how can you say, how is that possible? Well, if you are you are the best cop there is, you could be, in the precinct, wherever everybody's telling you how great you are, or you could be out on the street fighting crime. And so you decide where you want to be, right? Do you want to be in a place where you're just getting all the goodies, or do you want to be in a place where you're earning the goodies? And so as we start to understand how precious life is, the more and more people awaken spiritually, the more and more they want to be in a place where they can do the work. And so that is just a little tidbit there. Let me just keep reading. This perfection is expressed in the words of the Torah and the prophecy, and in the words of our sages, in the simple word devekut, adhesion. Mm-hmm. But for the widespread use of this word by the masses, it has lost almost all its content. But if you linger on that word for even an instant, you will be overwhelmed by the wondrous stature, for you will picture the exaltedness of the Creator and the lowliness of the creature. Then you will be able to perceive the value of the Veikut, of one with the other, and you will understand why we ascribe that word to the purpose of all of creation, of the whole of creation. Okay? So, we said this, let's just say it as simply as we can, and maybe you want to say it back to me, and you can say it in a better way than I can. God created somebody to give something to. So he created someone who likes to receive. That's us. And then God pushed us very far away from him so that we would feel ourselves instead of him, so that we could have a sense of identity and a sense of free will, and that we have some work to do to get back to him. So that's why Kabbalah, a lot of reasons why people don't study Kabbalah until they're older, is because the best example is a relationship between a man and a woman, a love relationship. So if you are very far away from the one that you love, what are you going to do? You're going to try to figure out what that person likes and try to like those same things, right? So you meet this girl and she doesn't know you exist, and then you find out that she is really into sailing. So you start to learn how to sail. And so this is exactly what we're talking about here. This is a very, what's the word? This methodology is it's a very practical methodology. It has to do exactly with what we're feeling all the time. This is not something that you have to learn that's outside of yourself. This is exactly how we're created. And so God created us to give to us. As beautiful it is to receive from God and to receive everything, we are the exact opposite of God, because God is giving and we're receiving. And so creation, all of creation was built or structured so that we can slowly but surely become givers. And the more we become givers, the more we become similar to God. The more we become similar to God, the more peace we bring to the world. The more peace we bring to the world, the more the world becomes a unified place. The more unified place it becomes, the more we can feel each other. The more we can feel each other, the more we can feel God. And so this is the process of all the spheros and all the things that people are always talking about. It's very, now that we're in this generation, it's very, very scientific. It's very clear, and there's a methodology here that can be understood. And so what the Holy Alshech just said here in this article is that the entire creation can be said to be created. All of creation could be, God made this whole entire world the way we see it for one reason, so that we can attain adhesion with him. How do you have adhesion with somebody? By being similar to them. How do you be similar to them? By wanting what they want. So God wanted to give over something to somebody else. So until you feel like you wake up in the morning and you feel like all you want to do is give to everybody around you, you are going to be distant from the energy field, from the light that is all surrounding all of nature. So if you went into the woods, if you went into nature, there would be an energy there, and that energy would be a system of everyone sharing. The trees are giving oxygen, everything, every animal is becoming somehow, with their own existence, is somehow feeding into a system where they are actually giving to every other animal there. And so it's all right, an integral system. And so that is what we're trying to build. And so the question is, if it exists in nature, in the animal world, how come it doesn't exist in the world that we're in the world of human beings? And the answer is that God left that for us to do. That's what Torah and mitzvahs are. Torah and mitzvahs is the blueprint, the instruction manual for that process, that we move to higher consciousness. Higher consciousness means that we move from our lowly state of selfishness to a place where we actually care and love and want to be connected to every single thing in creation. Okay. It turns out that the purpose of the whole of creation is that the lowly creature will be able, by keeping Torah and mitzvahs, to rise ever upward, ever developing, until they are rewarded with the Veikut, with the Creator. Okay? The Baal Shulam, what's amazing about Baal Shulam is he just tells you exactly what's going on. It becomes like just literally down to the scientific principles, to the steps of the methodology. It's all in order. And so in this generation, because we are so close to this turning point in consciousness, where all of humanity is going to realize that we're all really one integral system, and that we have to come into balance with each other, and that is why we're able to understand this. If you went back 700 years and you started to try to tell people this, they would have no idea what you were talking about. And that's why religion, people don't understand religion, but the religions are a way for a person to intermediate stages where a person who's not ready to hear things or not ready to understand things has to develop further. And so we are in a very, very special time now. Okay, let's keep moving. Now we have found a way to examine the purpose of creation, which is to cleave onto Him, onto God, in its true appearance. This exaltedness and the Dekud, which is guaranteed to come to us through our work in Torah and mitzvos, is no more and no less than the equivalency of the branches with the roots. All the gentleness and the pleasure and sublimity, because of natural, became a natural extension here, as we have said above, that pleasure is only the equivalency of form with its maker, and when we equalize in every conduct with our root, we sense delight. Okay, so this is very lofty language. This was written 75 years ago, but it's very simple. We just said, in this material world, in our selfish world, there's a very small amount of pleasure. It's very hard to be, right? As we get older, we realize, was it really worth it? I worked my whole life, and now I don't even look like, at least when I was 17, I looked handsome, and I looked like, and I can run all day and do whatever I want all day, and now here I am. So I worked very hard, and then you say, okay, you have kids. And so, yeah, but are your kids happy with you? Are you happy with them? And so we see that the world is a very, very difficult place. But the spiritual worlds are not places, it's not Mars and Venus. These are states of consciousness within us. And so we said before, if you are on the first day that you and your woman are falling in love with each other, and you are going on a bus, and you're eating ice cream, and everything is magnified many, many, many fold. And so the world's, it's when we say that there's much more pleasure in spirituality than in physicality, we're meaning that you feel all of the values that you put in your inner world, honor, respect, dignity, victory, right? All of these things, strength, power, right? Compassion, mercy, all of these things these are all the 7 emotional attributes, right? Zera, Anpin, and Kabbalah, and then we have 3 of the intellectual capacities, and then we have, even above us, we have these supra consciousness that we have. These are all these things that we feel inside of ourselves, right? Why don't I feel good unless if I go to work and people don't think that I'm doing a good job, I don't feel good. Even if I still get my paycheck, I'm not happy with it, right? If I go somewhere and people don't respect me, or I feel like I could have done better, why are these things bother me? Because those things, when they come into balance, and we feel all those things, and so imagine your best day so far on earth when you were the man, and you went there and the girl fell in love with you, and the boss gave you the compliment, and you were the fastest, and you were the strongest, and you were the... Now, how do we get to achieve that thing? And so the answer is that God is very big, and God created the whole world, and it's only when we put together the entire system, and I feel everybody, when I feel that I'm happy, because there's enough victory for me to be victorious, but there's also enough victory for you to be victorious. And so it's not enough that I come into the room and I feel like I'm the smartest guy here, but everybody else feels like a little bit like stupid. That is not enough. We're never going to feel God. We're never going to have peace in the world. What we really want to shoot, that's why we say in Kabbalah that in spirituality we want to have big ego. We want to have a big, big desire, right? It's not enough to have a small desire. I have to come in and I have to say to myself, I want everything from God. What does everything mean? I want to come to the room. I want to have a day where everybody feels like they were the best at work, and everybody feels like they're the strongest, and everybody feels like they're the smartest, and everybody is so feeling so good that they are so not consumed with themselves, but they're only consumed with everybody else's happiness. So that is the world that we're looking to build, and we don't know how to get there, and that is literally the method of Torah mitzvos, of what we're learning here. This is a strict methodology, step by step. As we learn how to do this, we can step by step. It's not going to be a very grueling process. There can be confusion, there can be setbacks, there can be all the things that we know that it'll be much even worse, much stronger and harder than we think, until something happens. God made it like that on purpose, and then it gets harder and harder. Why? Until I realize that I need you and you need me, and I need everybody here. That's why we have 10 men make a million, 10 men make 10 spheros, and the Malchut, the bottom one, which is me, we give away. Why do we give 1/10? Why do we give 1/10 of our paycheck to charity? Because we can't use it. Why can't we use it? Because that's the me, that's the ego. So when the light comes in, I say, make sure these guys get their paycheck. Make sure there's 9, I say these 9 guys have to get their paycheck. So what about my paycheck? I can't think about it. You just told me I'm not allowed to think about myself. Guess what? In the galut, in the exile, only I cared if I got my check. But when the geula comes, when the redemption comes, and when we enter into these higher phases, I'm not going to care about my paycheck. But guess what? There's going to be 9 other men on my team, and they're going to demand that I get my paycheck. And I'm going to accept my paycheck because they are telling me that it makes them happy. You understand? We have 10 people. This is the process in a nutshell. Listen to what we're saying. There's 10 of us, and saying, so we're going to live by the principles of Kabbalah. We're going to do Torah mitzvahs together, and we're going to really do it. So really? Are we just going to fake it? No, let's really do it. Okay, so we're serious Kabbalists, and we meet every single day, and we're doing this work, and so I'm only going to care about everybody else. So every single time I say I need food, I'm going to buy food for you guys. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to come in, I'm not going to have food for myself. I only bought 9 meals. But guess what? Everybody else is going to do the same thing. And then I'm not going to, I'll say, guys, I don't want to put it into my ego. I don't want to put it into my body. I don't want to break this vessel of altruism that we have here. I guess you can say, it'll make me happy if you do it. So that's why we're doing the whole Shem Shamayim. Hashem's going to say to you, you're going to say to you, you're going to say, Hashem, I don't want anything that you gave me, because I want you, I want to have a relationship with you, and you're a giver, and I want to be a giver. And then God's going to say to you, but I want you to take it. You'll make me happy if you take it. If you are healthy and happy and successful, it'll make me happy. Can you imagine that, Madrega? So you come home to your wife, and you say to her, I want to buy you a fancy car. And she says, no, I don't want it. She says, why don't you want it? I want to buy you a fancy car. I'm worried that the car is going to come in between us. I'm worried it's going to be so fancy that I'm going to be thinking about the car, I'm not going to be thinking about you anymore. So wow, what an unbelievable wife I have, what an unbelievable tzaddikus that she's worried that anything's going to come between us. And you say to her, I want you to have it. It's going to make me happy if you have this car. It's going to make me proud. It's going to make me feel victorious. It's going to make me feel all the things that I want to feel in life. And you're going to be I'm going to feel it through you, by you doing it. So this is the puzzle. This is the collective soul that we're trying to put together. And it's what we're learning now is that it's very doable and very, very logical, and it makes sense. And somehow all the mitzvahs of the Torah, all the things we do, we keep Shabbos, we keep kosher, we keep all these minutiae of laws. The Baal HaSulam is telling us it's all about this one thing. It's not 50 different things that we're talking about. We're talking about one thing. We're talking about that when we do this one thing, we bring the Messiah to ourselves. We bring Mashiach. We do this. We enter into spirituality. We fix the world. We reveal godliness. We fix all the diseases and all the hunger and all the fighting. Everything is rectified through this one system because guess what? It's one unified system that comes back to one desire. What was that one desire that created everything? God wanted to make something beautiful and give over something beautiful to us. And that's why everything can be, we're just talking about roots and branches. Everything can go right back to this one single desire that God had to make us happy. And to give us the ultimate happiness, which is to be like Him, and to be next to Him, and to have a relationship with Him. And so all these things that we're doing, we have the Ariya Kodesh, we have Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, we have the Baal HaSulam, we have the Balatch Rebbe, we have the Alter Rebbe, we have the Baal Shem Tov, we have Rav Nachman, explain to us what all of these things were, and we live in such a special generation that we're able to actually comprehend what is being said here, which is in itself miraculous. Okay, let's keep reading. Making sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, amazing. You have something to add?
No, looks
Okay.
good.
Let's keep reading.
Thank you.
Therefore, only those who keep Torah and mitzvahs are qualified for it, because by accustoming themselves to keeping Torah and mitzvahs in order to bring contentment to their Maker, they gradually depart from the bosom of the natural creation and acquire a second nature, being the above-mentioned love of others. Okay, so we just said that
Through doing the mitzvot, we're brought to this level of appreciation for the collective.
So it's more than an appreciation. What we're doing is we are acquiring, that's why we talk about acquiring 5 souls. So we have a soul that animates our material plane of existence, our body, and then we have these levels of consciousness that we are going to go through with the spheros. We have these different levels of consciousness, and as we acquire these new souls, we are building on top of our material existence, on top of our physical awareness, we are building higher awarenesses that are outside of our ego. Second class? Okay. So let's do this. We'll stop here. We'll stop here, but let me just make this, let's just finish this last point, that we have our egoistic existence, and that is the desire to receive for ourselves, and that stays. It comes into balance, right? We want to be healthy. We want to eat the right amount of food. We want to have the right amount of all the things that we have. We see in this modern world that if you have too much of something good, it's terrible. So we want to have the right amount of all those things, like an athlete, so that and that's why you have all the Halacha and all the Torah and the mitzvahs. You see the physical manifestations of all these rules and all these laws are meant to make you, right? The Rambam is supposed to make you healthy. So why are we trying to accomplish this? So that we can then acquire these 4 higher souls. And these higher souls are, each one of them is closer to complete nullification, and as you become nullified, you become aware of God. So when you become nothing, you start to see that God is everything. So the answer, we said this already, this is very important, is if without my ego, without my physical body, who would see that God is everything? So we have a paradox. We have, on the one hand, we have our ego that senses ourself, and we can then, as we have these higher forces, so somebody goes surfing, and they felt, you don't understand, I felt weightless, I felt like I was part of the wave, I felt like I was part of the ocean, I didn't feel myself at all. So, but you were there. If you didn't have a body and a mind and an ego to perceive that, you wouldn't be able to perceive it. And so this is the magic of the creative process, okay? So we're going to stop here and we'll go back. This was a wild class. We went in a lot of different directions. It was a lot of fun. Okay. So can you push stop and then go again? So just push the red button. No, here. In front, just push stop.
Really quick.
And then, no, off. Let's see why it's not going to see. Okay. What's up?
Okay, you just let it down. I need you to do a hard stop at 5:30. Then we
Can you stop me? Are you going to sit there?
Okay.
Stop it. Give me a 2-minute warning and I'll wrap it up. Okay. Okay, we're good.
I can also do it from here. Okay.
Is this thing still on? The phone is still on the class? It is? Okay. Amazing. Hello everybody, welcome to our class. We are learning Alshech Kabalah, and we are working from this book which is called The Inner Work. And it is a compilation of excerpts, small excerpts from a lot of the articles, a lot of different articles that was written by Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, who's known by his nom de gras as the Baal Sulam, the keeper of the ladder, the master of the ladder, and he was a great, perhaps the greatest Kabbalist of the modern generation. He wrote a commentary on the Zohar where he completely took out all of the codes. The Zohar is written, as we know, that it seems like stories. A man is walking and he meets somebody and he sees a horse, and we think, and we have no idea what they're really talking about, and it's very encoded. And the Baal Sulam went and he said, I'm going to tell you exactly what they're talking about, okay? And we have reasons why it was encoded, because in past generations, people were not ready to understand what was written there. They would not have understood it. And if what they did understand, they would have corrupted. They would have tried to take the light of the light that reforms, the light that changes you, the light that transforms you into a whole giving being. They would have taken and tried to put it into their lights, into their vessels of reception. They would try to use it selfishly. That's called, Rav Shalom Ashman tells us, that's called Vashti. Vashti was the embodiment of trying to take everything that God's given you and make it work by taking it selfishly. And that's what everybody tries to do. That's how we were created. And it's only in this generation where we realize that you get one car, you get 3 cars, you get 10 cars, and what happens? You're still miserable. You get popular, you get famous, you become a big famous person, and then all of a sudden everybody dislikes you and you're miserable and you don't know what, right? So we realize now that we need balance, and we need unity, and we need peace, and we need love, we need transcendence. We realize these things in this generation, and therefore we are able to accept the light that is hidden in the Zohar, and that's why the Baal Sulam, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, decoded it. Okay, so here we are. We're going to just keep reading excerpts and discuss them. And the whole study of Kabbalah is a methodology where we are transformed, and we are, so these excerpts, these small little excerpts, are meant for us to try and shift our perspective. So we're not going to change like that. What we are going to do is we're going to start to see things differently. And once we start seeing different things, they say, the Baal Shem explains that, we like what our community likes. And so if I go somewhere where everybody likes sports cars, after a while I'm probably going to like sports cars. And if I go somewhere where everybody's into fashion, I'm going to get very into fashion. So that's why the Kabbalists say you have to have a good community and you have to convince each other that, what would be the best thing, what would be absolutely the best way for me to spend my life, to become a transcendent person who's an altruistic person and is not a selfish person. And if we truly, truly, truly believe that, then we would go ahead and we would do it right away, but we don't believe it. So the study of Kabbalah, the first step is for us to convince each other that all the problems are caused by our selfishness, and that if we would fix that one problem, the world would be an amazing place. Okay, let me start reading. According to the Baal Sulam, we see in reality it is not possible in our generation to attain attachment to Hashem by studying only the revealed Torah. The material temptations have increased, and the light that shines from the revealed Torah is not outweighing the overpowering materialism. Therefore, our generation definitely needs to be involved in learning Kabbalah. Okay? There's many reasons why people don't study Kabbalah, and there's many reasons why people don't study the Baal Sulam. You can come in if you want. You can come in. So there's many reasons why people don't learn. This is like Kabbalah can be called big boy Torah. And so there's things that they're told that in past generations they would never tell you, and things that even today that people don't tell you. So here the Baal Sulam is telling you that for the average person, studying Torah, the revealed Torah, is not going to bring them to adhesion with the Creator. It's not going to bring them to this transformative place. And the reason is that this world is much, much more exciting and much more egoistic than it was in generations past. If you were sitting in Poland and you had potatoes 3 times a week for dinner, it wouldn't be, the world would not be that interesting, would be that distracting, and perhaps you would be able to glean from studying Torah all day, be able to glean the purpose of creation and what they were talking about. So people in past generations would study Halacha, and they would study Gemara, and they would study Chumash, and they would understand more readily what was being said there. They would understand the inner aspect of what was being said there. But in this generation, because we have video games and we have movies and everybody wants to get a fancy house and fancy cars and stuff. And so here the Baal Shem is telling you that it's really, really important that a person study, who's doing Torah and mitzvos, study Hassidut or study Kabbalah, because otherwise they really will not focus their attention adequately enough to actually be transformed by Torah and mitzvos. You see that, unfortunately, one of the things that can happen to a person who studies Torah and mitzvos is that he can become very, very successful and very, very happy with themselves. A person who's very, very smart, very, very wealthy, and very, very, have a lot of success in life, and then they miss the point. The point is to be transformed. Okay, let's keep going.
Would you say in the past that most people didn't have those skills, only like an elite group, and now everybody has access to?
Yes, if not skills, they didn't have the vessels. And so what you had before is so if you start, somebody asked, is it the reason in the past that people didn't have the potential to be able to do Kabbalah? That's exactly right. And so let's look at the Torah. You start with Avram Avinu, one person, and he is all by himself, and he understands these things, and everybody else in the world is a pagan and doesn't understand what he's talking about. Everybody thinks, no, I don't know what you're saying, but that's not how the world works. And then you have, slowly but surely, he builds up, a few hundred people, and they start to understand this, and the rest of the world does not understand what they're talking about. You go on back 1,000 years, people would be very happy to get together, get on their horses, go somewhere next village and chop everybody up and take all their stuff. And they'd say this is what the world is. And they'd have gods that they would pray to help them in battle and to help them with all these things, right? That was the way people really thought it was. And so as you see, the trajectory of the Torah, the narrative in the Torah, is that each time more and more people come into the system. So the first time you had Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the Baal Shem explains That's why the Jewish people had to go down, the Israelites had to go down to Egypt to become a nation, just to get to that first. So Baal Shem says something very, very interesting. Until we had the first 6,000 souls, this was not even possible. That's why the Torah, what the Torah was talking about, is meaning putting the world back together in this unified way, in this transcendent way, meaning putting all of creation back together, but in the aspect of altruism, instead of the selfish nature that we experience, right? So that all the vessels broke into pieces, and we're putting it back together, but we're not putting it back together the same way that it fell apart. We're putting it back together and fixing it. And it was right. So when the Israelites came out of Egypt, they became a nation at Har Sinai. They got together 600,000 souls. What does that mean? They put it together. They put all 6,000 men and all the women who support them and all the children. It's everybody. But we talk about men, and let's not go into the reason why we use men instead of saying everybody together. There's very, very deep Kabbalistic reasons. We've touched on it many times, but let's not have that class right now. But the 600,000 souls of these 600,000 men and all of their families, this took a contract. They made a contract with God. We are going to live this new way. We're going to live like everybody's going to care about everybody else and not about themselves. And this is what made them receive the Torah. They received the method of doing that. They said, we're going to do this method. That's why we are, as Jewish people, that's why we are obligated to do this work. That's why the Jewish people, if we don't do the work, we get into a lot of trouble. The world gets angry at us and all these things, and we've confused ourselves, but the truth is that we have a higher obligation because we took a contract. So if you sign a contract that says you're supposed to do something, you have to do it. If somebody else didn't sign that contract, they don't have to do it, they're not going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble because you signed the contract. And so the truth is that we sign the contract. When you go to the Marines, they tell you you're now pledging for the Marines, and so now you got to go fight. And so if there's a war, you go fight, and they don't go fight. You can't after you take the oath in the Marines, you can't say, wait, how come they're not going to war? How come they're staying in the towns? You said, well, they didn't sign on to the Marines. You did. And so you signed on to this contract, and it's a good thing that we did, and it's a beautiful thing, and it gives us a tremendous amount of, and people can join us. We know we're Jewish religion. We accept converts, and so people can join if they want, but it's a huge obligation to take on the obligation of doing this method. So what were we saying? Why did we come with this?
Well, because many people, you said they lost the point after a while. You had an elite group. Everybody else just ate potatoes.
Correct. So exactly. So we were talking about something. We came to Har Sinai, and then we fell out of that, right? And then we went to Israel. We got to Israel, and we started again. We had the first temple, and then we had the second temple. So each one of these, if you read the Torah Kabbalistically, each one of these ascensions are times where we were successful in doing Torah and mitzvot and unifying as a nation to achieve a certain amount of unity. The first temple was a higher unity than the second temple. We're not going to go into why that is, but let's just assume that it's a process. So imagine you were going mountain climbing, and the first time you went up the mountain, you got all the way to the top, and the second time you went up to the mountain, you only got up to the fourth base camp, because your whole point of the mission was to resupply base camp 4, not to go to the top. So why is the second temple lower than the first temple? There's Kabbalistic reasoning. Why did it have to happen like that, and why did it happen? And you can even peek into it and you can make a guess on your own. And you can see that the Romans came in and they took some part of the Judaism and brought it out to the rest of the world. And so this is all a process. And that if you start to understand the spiritual evolution that's underway, you can start to understand these things. Why? That's why people become very smart when they study Torah mitzvahs. So as we move into future generations, what happens? We are including more and more people in the unity. So now that the Jewish people are back in Israel, what are we trying to accomplish when Mashiach comes? Is the Torah and mitzvahs going to the entire world? And the entire world, everybody on their level, joins into this unity. So you have a body is unified. You have a complete body, you have feet, you have legs, you have a brain, you have ears, all of these different, and if you had to rank which system was more important, you would clearly put the heart and the lungs and the brain above the ears and the elbows and the toes. But the point is that when you achieve unity in humanity, the hierarchy takes a back seat. So, like we said before, when you go to a party, you don't say, hi, here's my brain, I named my brain Bob, and here's my lungs, my lungs are Tony. You don't do that. You say, hi, my name is Yehuda, that's me. So, we're not concerned with the hierarchy. The only reason why we are concerned with the hierarchy in life, we see now in this generation, people are very disturbed by the hierarchy. Right? I don't like the fact that you're smarter and it's not fair, and these people are like, right, they want everything to be equal. So what are they doing? They're tasting prematurely messianic consciousness. They want everything to be equal. Yes, we have equal, everybody's equal, meaning the body all works together, all of humanity works together as a single unity. But inside of that unity, there's a hierarchy. Why is it like that? You can ask Jordan Peterson, because he talks about it all the time. But you would soon see that if you need some people to be doctors, and some people to be lawyers, and some people to be this, and some people to be that, you would understand that you need to have differentiation, and you need to have all these different parts, because you put this whole thing together. So let's not go down that rabbit hole, but you see that you have a functioning system, some functioning system has both aspects of equality and hierarchy that are themselves in perfect balance with each other. Okay, we're saying a lot today.
Good.
Wow, we're getting real serious here. Okay, let's keep going. If we see ourselves as faulty, we are consequently projecting fault on our Creator. Therefore, it cannot be that we are lowly and deficient and defective. Seeing ourselves that way is seeing an external illusion that is not true. Okay, that's what I love about Kabbalah, is that when you read something, every sentence you read, you can kind of like, it's a fractal. You can infer the rest of the wisdom from one thing. If you only had one of these sentences, you could probably figure out the rest of everything else just from each sentence, because each sentence is like has within it the collective, right? So we're called a small city. So like the whole world is inside of me. So like every sentence here. So let's read this again, because it's amazing. When we see ourselves as faulty, we are consequently projecting fault on our Creator. Therefore, it cannot be that we are lowly and defective. Seeing ourselves that way is seeing an external illusion that is not true. Okay? So basically, what he's telling you here is just like the Matrix. The movie The Matrix happens to be based on Kabbalah. It's not like a very particularly authentic brand of Kabbalah, but there are a lot of Kabbalistic concepts that are explained in the Matrix movies. Anyway, here what he's saying is that we perceive ourselves in time and space, and so here I am, and I'm not my perfect self. So I see that I have all these feelings about myself, and I'm not the person that I want to be. But where I'm going to end up is going to be in a perfected place, and so I must be outside of time. I must already be in that perfected space. So in potentiality, I am my future self. I am going to become whatever potential I have to become, I will become that thing, and therefore that potential to become that good person. So for today, I'm a much nicer person than I was when I was 14. At 14, I was much more selfish, much more aware of people's feelings, right? But I was going to grow into the person that I am now. And so what we're seeing now is a construct of time and space that God has made for us so that we can do the work of creation. If I saw that everything was going to work out perfectly, and God was perfect, and I'm perfect, and everything's perfect, then I wouldn't have anything to do. So the mercy, that's why I say that we say in the Torah that God created the world with mercy. So even all the hardships that we're experiencing, and all the limitations, and all of these things that we are experiencing are in fact gifts for us. And so that is the secret of Kabbalah, the secret of Torah mitzvahs, is that the Baal Shem says that when you win the lottery, you don't start celebrating when you pick up the money. You start celebrating when you get the winning ticket. So that's why we should know that we already have reason to celebrate. We're already in a great place. It's just that we don't know that we're in a great place yet. If we knew we were in a great place, we knew where we were headed, then we would have a much easier time moving through each of the stages of development in an amazing way. Imagine, like I told you, you're going to become the biggest lawyer in the world. You're going to become the best lawyer in the world. And then I sent you to law school where you were struggling terribly. You could not understand what was going on there. You would have the knowledge that you're going to become the best lawyer that ever lived. And so with that knowledge, you would be able to not be anxious, not be upset, and somebody come over to you and say to you, gee, you're really terrible, you can't understand anything in this class. You'd be like, yeah, I know. You'd be like all cool about it because you know that who you're going to become. You know that guy, that professor who's telling you that you don't know what you're talking about, one day is going to be coming to you because you're the most. So what we need to do is here the Baal Shem is telling us is that we need to understand that everything that's happening to us with all the mistakes and all the problems, all the confusions, and all the falling down is all part of a process where we're going to become perfected. And to not know that and to not think that is to be making a complaint not against yourself but against God and saying to God, so say, what is a tzaddik? A tzaddik is somebody who testifies that God is perfect and God is doing a perfect job. So we all think that we can do a better job than God. But the bottom line is that if you want to be a tzaddik, well, you have to say to yourself, with all your problems and all your mistakes and all your avera and everything that's not right, just say, God's doing a perfect job. Because that's the truth of the inner truth that we don't see yet. Is that everything is going to work out perfectly, we're all going to be united, and everything, the world's going to be a beautiful place, and we'll all be very, very happy with God.
Amen.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right, how are you?
Shalom Aleichem. הרב יוסף, אתה עכשיו או בשש?
רוצה שאני אשמח שם?
I gotta get the car. Stop that. Yeah, you see there's no record button? It says standby, so stop it.
Oh,
So now take it off this thing,
עכשיו מזכיר אותו.
and take out the,
מזכיר אותו.
card.
ישיבה.
יש לך?
okay.
יש לך קדוש.
take out the card.
יש פה.
There must be a way that it just slides off.
I can help you. Just don't force, you can play around with it, just don't ever.
Right.
יש למעלה.
This trigger, I think.
That was a good introduction of the collective. Really,
ראית את התמונה הזאת? תראה.
I want to make a group.
בוא, 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 בוא.
Have
שנייה,
so
בוא.
we'll do that. Very
יואל,
good.
בוא, בסדר.
yeah.
We can really learn without
Yeah,
having to worry about if our hair is straight or if some weirdness. Okay. I took this card.
הוא מצא אותם פה?
זה אני לא יודע. לא סתם, לא קשור. אבל מה זה? מה
זה נחמד, אבל זה...
מה זה?
Oh, wait, where's the other card case? Did I give the other card case to someone?
Well, glad,
That's a crazy alarm.
yeah, glad that didn't go off. It's now exactly 5:30.
Give the card case.
Okay, it's too loud. I don't like any of them. Okay. Okay.
So I have the card here.
I don't see a case or.
So he's gonna give you a card from here. Are you in charge of doing this stuff?
Not really.
Just put one of these cards in there.
Okay. Just any random card?
I don't normally do it, but you can put any of the
Yeah,
cards in
yeah,
there.
it just has to have space.
I'll take number 4.
You can format it to make sure that way you can erase anything that's on it.
Okay. I'll try this at home.
חזק וברוך יהודה. It's not locked, you can open it.
Is Shulam coming now? I mean, is
Rav Yehuda?
oh, look at Tamar Ron.
Oh, Shmuel, I don't know. Okay. Yehuda, you're back. Your bag and your bottle.
Yeah, I'm just putting my cup in the center.
Oh, you're on now.
That's your book?
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Hello, everybody on YouTube. Everybody on YouTube. Alrighty, folks. This Yada Dishwaya. טוב,
אז אני יכול להתחיל בשש, נכון?
כן, כן. אז אולי אפילו טיפה יותר מוקדם. איזה... אתה מוזמן לשבת גם פה. מוזמן לשבת גם.
יש קפה שם?
יש, תכין מה שאתה רוצה, בשמחה רבה. Okay. Alright, B'siyata Dishmaya, we are here in Shara Yichud, but it's an Alshech Academy class, Baruch Hashem. Just a little bit about this place. Shara Yichud is a B'zat Hashem yeshiva that we're wanting to start here in Tzfat for people that are seeking deeper ways into the Torah, that focus also on breath work and meditation and deep prayers, and deep Torahs, and real connections with Hashem that match your inner workings and how you're meant to approach your Avodat Hashem. That is B'zat Hashem what we're trying to do in this beautiful place. And today we have the zchut to host the Alshech Academy here and to be able to, Baruch Hashem, do good things together. So, B'zat Hashem, we are going to be learning in the Sefer B'yam Darkecha on Tu B'Av. We're learning what Tu B'Av. Yena de Yoma, right? Chazal say, if you learn about something in the time that it's happening, there's nothing better than that. Right? So here we are connecting to the lights of Tu B'Av. B'zat Hashem. So on this day, there's a revelation of this inner connection between the Creator and the creation. Everything about this day, the Arizal says, is about the Yesod, about the connections that we have in life. And that's mainly the main connection that you could ever have in life is between the Creator and the creation, right? The creatures. To reveal inside the creation this light of Hashem that is much higher and loftier than anything we can find on here. Meaning, not only to know that the whole entire creation receives its vitality from the Creator. Right? We could go through life and think that. That's the external connection that we experience. We see the world as something that has to be, but it receives its life from the Creator. That's an external way of looking at it. Rather, we have to recognize that the whole entire creation is coming in order to reveal the light of Hashem, and therefore, all of it, the whole entire creation is a very lofty thing. And it's not a simple thing. It's not just physicality like it appears. It's not just some empty vessel. Meaning, when we look at something externally with the light of Yesod, the light that is being actually revealed in fruition, what I see, the real light that's being revealed to me, then for sure, this is a very, very important level in life. To be able to understand that everything I'm experiencing is connected and receiving its vitality from the Creator, blessed be He, that's a very, very, you've got to a good level. You're doing good. If you can see that your whole entire life is receiving its life force and its vitality and all the goodness is coming from the Creator, great. But there's a deeper level. It's something that can strengthen us, that the world does not exist separate of the Creator. It's alive from the light of Hashem. That's that first level. The next level, though, is when you merit to see the inner aspect of Yesod. The outer aspect of Yesod is to see, to connect everything I experience back to the Creator, that it receives its vitality and its existence from the Creator. The inner aspect of Yesod, that it changes and transforms the way that I understand this idea. It becomes a much higher level. The whole entire purpose of creation is to reveal the Creator. It's not that it exists. That was the purpose, that the world should exist, and now we have to reveal Hashem here, or connect it back to Hashem. No, no, no. The creation is constantly revealing Hashem at any given moment. That's what it's doing. It's not about the creation, it's about Hashem, and the world is the vehicle that is constantly revealing Hashem. Meaning we shouldn't think that the light of the Creator, the goal was to give life to the creation. Hashem wanted to create a world. That's it. Hashem wanted to create a world.
Kid stuff, right? It's like,
It's too simple.
yeah.
Rather, you have to look at a much higher, much loftier perspective. That the whole entire creation, the goal of it is to be a vehicle of expression for the light of the Creator in a way that the Creator is the center point of everything in the creation. Not the other way around. When we live life and we connect it back onto Hashem. No. We have to live Hashem and connect that to life. Understand how everything, Hashem is at the center. So what's the secret of the shidduchim that we have on this day? Right? It's known, the Gemara tells us, that the girls of Israel would wear white dresses and they would go out to the vineyards and they would dance in circles together. We'll talk about the dancing in circles soon. Right? And these holy women were trying to find their holy husbands. And the husbands would lift their eyes up and they would see, and we're going to touch on all of these different ideas. But first things first, what's the idea of this being a day of shidduchim, or a day of matches, a day of pairs and couples coming together? When we understand this external aspect of Yesod and the internal aspect of Yesod, the fact that everything is existing by way of the light of the Creator, but not only that, that it only exists in order to reveal the light of the Creator, then that is the ultimate shidduch, the ultimate match that we could have. The match between the Creator and the creation. To recognize that the whole entire reality and all the light that I'm experiencing, and every single facet of my life, everything that's said to me that I hear, every single thing is coming to reveal a different shade of the light of the Creator. That's at a much higher level. Therefore, on this day, it's a day of shidduchim, also physically, right? On this day, the shidduch, the Holy Alshech. Today is the day that there's a shidduch, there's a match made between every single Jew and Hashem blessed be. That's the connection of Yesod and Malchut, Tzfat and Yerushalayim, right? That we connect everything that we have comes from Hashem. That's the lesson of Yesod. And we connect that with everything that we're experiencing, specifically with us, which is the Jewish people, which is Malchut, which is the Shekhinah. Well, that's the ultimate connection that you can have. That's the ultimate match that anybody can have. Because on this day, the inner aspect of Yesod is being revealed. The outer aspect of Yesod is revealed on Tu B'Shvat. When we celebrate fruits, we celebrate fruition. But tonight is the inner aspect. Today is 40 days before the creation of the world. 25th of Elul is the creation of the world. The creation begins. And 40 days before that, Chazal tells us, is when there's conception. Right? It's known that when a couple is together and they conceive, only 40 days later does the neshama really come down into whatever embryo fetus that there could be there at that time after 40 days, right? So it takes that period. Same thing now. The match was made today. 40 days from now, we will have a new creation of the world. So this complete connection that we have with Hashem, the most internal part, meaning the recognition internally that the whole entire creation was created only in order to reveal the light of Hashem. That is constantly being constricted and brought down. And by way of this recognition, we're able to connect to Hashem in everything that I go through in life. Taking out the garbage, learning Torah, praying, doing business, driving, road rage, right? Whatever it is, paying bills, every aspect of this world is just another tool to reveal the light of the Creator. So even more so, to stand also through the test that we're going through. And to run away from all of the filth and all of the impurity, all of the tumah, all of the dirt. This essentially is what's called the Ichul Kucha B'Ichul Shkita. The unification of the Transcendent One and the Shekhinah, the revealed light of Hashem. So our job is to become this vehicle. Become a holy being that can be able to reveal this light in this world. The person that is a walking Yichud. That he's constantly going through life, externally he represents Hashem and internally he represents Hashem, meaning his actions are according to Torah and they're aligned with holy things. But he also does it with the right heart. He does it with the right intention. He knows that it's not him that's doing it. It's not her that's doing it. He knows that there's a power that's coming through him that is bringing vitality, and that is the source of it. And the reason that that light is there is in order to reveal it. That your actions should reveal it. And this leads to Hassidut. This leads to unity, which is the idea that the girls would go out to the vineyards and they would dance in circles, right? When you dance in a circle, there's no leader. There's no one that's faster or slower or ahead or this. You're in a circle, everyone is equal. Everyone can also look at each other. This is the inner aspect of the Pnimiyut of the Yesod. That the purpose of the whole entire creation is only to reveal the Creator. And if that's the case, then all of us are equal. There's no one that's more special than anybody else. We all have a unique way that we're meant to reveal the Creator, but we're all doing the same thing. We're all equal. And that's why we would dance in a circle, so that we could look at each other, we could be happy with each other's portion, with our own portion. And after everything is being rectified, the secret of Keter, to show that everything is one. We reach back up to the top. So Zat Hashem, we're continuing the Yom Dakecha on the third chapter of Tu B'Av, Gimel, Ratzon v'Achlata, a desire and a decision. It says the girls would go out when they were in the vineyards and they would say, Bachu, Sa'na Einecha, boy, lift up your eyes. There's tons of depth here. There's so much that goes on here. Sa'na, Sho, Aryeh, Nesher, Adam. Ox, lion, eagle, and man, which is the supernal Nekirah. Bachur is Hashem, who's Bocher, who chooses. If you want to be chosen by Hashem, lift up your eyes, become a Merkabah, become holy, be connected to Hashem. There's so much depth here. Let's see what the Yom Dakecha says. Kol Yehudi hu Bachur. Every single Jew, boy or girl, you're a Bachur. You're a little boy. Why are you Bachur? Bachur means is a double meaning. One, it means a boy, and two, it comes from the word livchor, to pick, to choose. So you Bachur, when the vav is in that place inside the word, it means it's picked, chosen. We're from the Am HaNivchar, we're from the chosen nation. So every Jew is a Bachur, he's a person that has been chosen. Chol Yehudi Hashem Yitbarach Omer, B'cha bacharti liot li le'am segula. A Jew gets a message from Hashem every single day. I chose you to be my precious nation. It's going to be revealing me the world more than any other people. Every day we get that message, whether we hear it or not. That's up to us and it depends on our actions. But every day Hashem says that to us. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing you again. You woke up in the morning, and that means I have you in this world to do something. And if you're part of Am Yisrael, that message is very clear. But what do the girls of Jerusalem say to the Bachur, to the chosen nation? Sa'na einecha, lift your eyes up. Lift your eyes up, look up. Meaning, have aspirations and truthfully to ascend, to become better, to look at new horizons in spirituality and growth, to become a better person. You should also have a cheshek, a desire, a fire inside of you to want to succeed, to achieve something. And you have to believe that you're able to do it as well. And don't say, it's too high for me. It's in the heavens, it's too much for me. It's not true. You have to know that the light of Hashem is being revealed in the secret of Yesod. Meaning in a way that Yesod is able to take Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, bring it all together, where each one individually gives its own energy, how it needs to give, and it's not diminished in any way to make space for the other. Everybody has room. It's the concentrate of everything that can go in life, that's Yesod. Everything that you can experience, take everything there and connect it back to Hashem, and it's possible for you to do it. Everybody's able to become a vessel for such a beautiful light. The girls would go out to the Kerem, to the Chamim, to the vineyards. What's the Kerem? The Kerem is the hint to Israel. Because Baruch Hu calls Israel, his kerem, his vineyard. Like it's written in Yeshayahu, Ki kerem Adonai Tzvaot, Beit Israel. What is the vineyard of Hashem? The people of Israel, Beit Israel, the house of Israel. Like the vineyard has a lot of different vines in it, and only together are all of the individual vines making up a vineyard. So to Am Yisrael. And Am Yisrael is this precious, precious giffen, this precious vine for Hashem. And there's a whole list of the Gemara. What would the beautiful girls say? What would the rich girls say? What would the ugly girls say? What would the girls that didn't have families say? The ugly girls, so to say. The Gemara says the mechuarot, the ones that weren't so pleasant to look at. What would they say? Chu mikchem l'shem shamayim bilvad, sheta'atruno b'zubim. They're ugly, right? So now there's no physical attraction here. The Yetzer Hara is not involved. So they would say, each one of them had a claim. They would say, that the ugly girls would say, they would say to the boys, take your portion, l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven alone. Yeah, I'm not beautiful, do it for the sake of heaven. You need to get married, get married. Matters how I look. Sheta'atrunu b'zubim. When you do it l'shem shamayim, then you're going to have a crown of gold. So whoever, us too, sometimes we feel ugly. Sometimes we feel like we don't have the good points that people look at, that people want. Or Hashem doesn't want to choose us because we're ugly. We've done bad things. We've made ourselves uglier and uglier and pushed ourselves away from being a beautiful, shining cleave for Hashem. What then? Don't give up. Al tityesh. Rather, you should run to make Hashem happy and to yearn after Him. And this ishtokiku, this yearning that you have, that's the answer to the bina, which is sodazah, which is the secret of gold. What's the idea that they said there? Take it for Shem Shamayim, and you're going to have gold, you're going to have a crown of gold because you did it for the right sake. And sometimes we also don't feel like we're worthy of being a good shacharit. We can put on tefillin, we can learn Torah. We feel like we can't reach our goals. We're not worthy of reaching our goals. We're not worthy of being good Jews. We feel ugly. What did the ugly girl say? Take us for Shem Shamayim. Meaning, do your work for the Shem Shamayim. Yeah, you're not in the States. You might be very dirty. But do you still show up? You still will do what you have to do? Do you still read Tehillim for all of yourself, for yourself? You still pray? Do you still learn Torah? To give to the God? Even if you're not worthy, even if you feel like you're not worthy, you really are. You just feel sometimes ugly. Do you still do it L'Shem Shamayim? And even more so, the more you yearn, specifically when you recognize that you're in this aspect of being an ugly person. Even though that's the case, you ask for gold. You're seeking out a crown of gold. You will receive it faster. A broken heart, Hashem will never leave alone. And Hashem will never ignore a broken heart. If you really, really understand that you've been acting in a non-kosher way and you're not holding in a good sense right now, and you're not deserving of all the good that you're expecting to receive, and you still want the gold crown, because you still want Hashem, Hashem will answer you. And in a deeper sense, where a person thinks that when you think that you're not going to get it, you're never going to reach perfection because you're an ugly person, you've done bad things, when you do an avodah, then it's much more L'Shem Shamayim. When you really think about yourself that you're an ugly person, meaning you're a person that's not deserving of all the good and that you're filthy and you shouldn't be doing avodah Hashem and such holy things, and who are you to talk to Hashem?
And you do it anyway.
There's nothing more L'Shem Shamayim than that. In order to cling to Hashem, to be one with Hashem, and not because I'm trying to be successful. I know I'm not successful. I'm far from it. I'm a failure in every single thing I do. But I'm not going to stop trying to connect to you, Hashem. Then how much more pure can you get than that? Oh Hashem. So on this day, there's a notification of all of the preventions that we can go through in life. On this day we're able to set goals, we're able to have aspirations, we're able to see ourselves as better and that we want to do better. Every single Jew is very precious and important to Hashem. And this is hinted to on this day that there used to be guards that would stop the Jews from going to Yerushalayim. The kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes in the north. Their kings were not always such holy idiots and kosher Jews, and they would set up sometimes guards to stop the tribes of Israel from going to Jerusalem to do sacrifices and having any connection to the temple, because that was in the portion of Yehuda and Benjamin. They wanted the power. On Tu B'Av was one of the things that happened in history on Tu B'Av is that these guards were taken away. Because the idea of going up to the Regel, going up to Yerushalayim, to the Beit HaMikdash, that is a revelation of the fact that Hashem chose every single one of us. Like it's written, every single one of you has to see the face of Hashem, the God of Israel. Every single one of us, it says the face of Hashem, meaning we came in front of Hashem one by one. In the Beit HaMikdash, we were able to come. We came there as a huge nation all together, but we had our time one-on-one with the Baruch Hu, where we stood in front of Hashem and we were told we were chosen, we are precious, we are able, we are pure, we are clean, we are connected. And Hashem Baruch Hu revealed Himself to every single one of us according to our level. He met us at our level. That's all we had to do with the Mikdash. And Yeravam, this king, this wicked king, he put guards that prevented people from going to that realization, prevented people from stepping foot into Yerushalayim. And they would say to the person, who are you that you should go to Yerushalayim? Are you fitting? Who are you to go to Yerushalayim? What kind of merit do you have to go to Jerusalem? And they have different different claims like the Yetzirah has. But on this day, the guards were nullified, and whoever wants can ascend his heart to Hashem. Whoever wanted to connect was able from this day on to have his personal connection and to go to Yerushalayim. Now we can all ascend, we can all go up to this place, to the Beit HaBechira, to the place of choice, the house of Hashem, the highest place for God Wi-Fi. The Shekhinah dwelling there, there's no place higher than Har HaBayit. To merit so that we can also be a vehicle and a chariot for the Holy Shekhinah to cling to the Kodesh Baruch Hu truthfully. So how do we merit to become a Merkabah? How does a Jew become a vehicle for God expression, for the Shekhinah to dwell upon it? This is work that surrounds every facet of life. And there's tons and tons of infinite levels to this. But in general, in order to be a Jew, a person of Hashem, a person that reveals the truth and lives it, and is connected to it with his whole entire neshama, the more you work on it and the more effort you put into it, the more you pray for it, the more that you hold it as an important thing in your life, slowly but surely you merit more and more to come to this reality. And every single Jew for sure wants to merit to become a vehicle of expression of Hashem, the creator blessed be He in this world, to become a vehicle for Hashem and His Shekhinah. And that's the energy of the day. That's the energy of this whole entire day. The first step is though, you have to have the aspirations, you have to want it, you have to really, really want it. And this is the unique ability and power that we have in an internal day like this, the Yesoda Pnimi, Tu B'Av, to make a strong decision, to become a new person. I want to become a vehicle, I want to become a Merkava for the Shekhinah, for God's presence in this world. I want to reveal godliness in this world. I want to reveal that Hashem is the inner aspect of everything. And that's the whole entire life that I want to live. That's my life. That's what I want to do in my life. Many different things I can go doing throughout my day. I can be busy with a million different things, but I have one goal, to live and to reveal Hashem. And it's a decision that we have to make. And again, we don't have to do anything. We just have to want. That's the first step. After that, start to pray about it. After that, start to learn about it. After that, start to become it. First things first, make a decision in your heart by way of the power of this day that you're going to take your life that's meant to be revealing Hashem, and you're going to improve it by 1%. You're going to take, like Rav Turgeman says, there's 1,440 minutes in a day. Take 1% of your day, 14 minutes, and put it towards this consciousness. Sometimes that means just sitting and doing nothing and just contemplating on the Creator, just talking to Hashem. So what are some practical pieces of advice that we have? 1 second, Rabbi Yosef Simchan, internally we have to deal with this, we have to think about it, we have to feel it in our heart, we have to contemplate it, we have to pray for it, we have to do yichudim, meaning unifications, meaning you take a cup of water and you drink the water and it quenches your thirst, and you say, thank you Hashem, like I quenched my thirst with this physical glass of water, may I also merit to quench my spiritual thirst with your Torah, which is the water. That's a simple yichud that a person can do, and if you do this throughout your day, more and more unifications like that, it's a deep Kabbalistic practice, but look how simple it can be. Right? When you do that more and more in life, you will merit to become the vehicle. Like I get into my vehicle to drive, may I become a vehicle for Hashem to drive me through the world. Right? Different things like that, you can do like that. And get used to living this out, this truth, in every facet of life, spiritual and physical. Spiritually, in every avodah that you do when you're learning, you look for the light of Hashem. You want to cling to Hashem. You want to have tzveikut to Hashem. And from a recognition that the light of Hashem is the only thing that is true, and that's the only real thing that is good, spiritually. So you're not looking for people to look at how you pray. No, in your prayer you want to find Hashem. In spirit and physically, to see everything that I'm allowed to enjoy in this world, everything that's permitted for me to engage with. Am I focusing only on the physical thing? Or do I realize that the real pleasure and the real vitamins and the pleasure, the taste, the high, the drunk, the good feeling, the nice coffee awakeness, whatever it is, the good feeling after the steak, are these things the physical thing that I'm attaching myself to, or am I attaching myself to the spark of Hashem, that's really the only good that there is? And then the last thing is for sure sur mira. You have to be able to separate yourself from things that are against the Torah, things that are not permitted, things that Hashem said outright in the Torah, the 365 things Hashem said, do not engage with. Do not do those things. Eating non-kosher animals, eating non-kosher food, going to non-kosher places, being in non-kosher relationships, so on and so forth. The more that we can separate ourselves from the negative commandments that the Torah says, that Hashem said outright not to do, the more we will purify ourselves and become a vehicle that is fitting for the light of the Creator to dwell upon us and to be able to reveal it to the whole entire world. Amen. Ken Yehi.
Amen.
Make sure to follow Shara Yichud on Instagram, my page Torah, and also Alshech Academy to get more of this Torah. Rabbeinu Yosef, Rechavod. Oh, it's 600. I thought I was late. Baruch Hashem.
Are you going
I
away?
need to go.
What?
I need to go.
אני פה איתך. אני איתך.
Okay. Okay. Do what we can. Drink the water. Drink the water. Not the Kool-Aid, the water.
It's an important message.
Go. Hallelujah.
Sameach.
אוקיי.
שלום, מוכן? אתה רוצה להרים את עצמך? לא? בסדר. לא? אתה מוכן?
Shalom. We haven't talked enough about one of the greatest Mekubalim of Tzfat, Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz. We've talked about Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Mabit, others. They have biographies, but Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz doesn't have a full biography. You don't know enough about him. It's about time someone wrote a whole biography on this very interesting person, Rav Shlomo Alkabetz. But first I'd like to start out with something that connects us to this time of year, to the Parshat Shavua. Today's Tu B'Av, the happiest day of the year. And we read Parshat Ve'et Hanan this last Shabbat. And in Parshat Ve'et Hanan, we read for the second time Aseret HaDibrot. And we all know that there are a few differences between the Aseret HaDibrot of Ve'et Hanan and the original ones in Parshat Yitro. And maybe the most famous example is that in Ve'et Hanan, then we read Shamor et HaShabbat L'Kadsho. Not Zachor, like it says in Parshat Yitro, but Shamor. And then immediately we all remember the Lecha Dodi of Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz. When the first stanza is Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad, Yishmi'anu el ha'miuchad, Hashem echad u'shmo echad, Hasheminu tiferet v'li tila. Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. Was said in one saying by Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shamor v'Zachor. We would expect, though, that Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz, who of course wrote the Lecha Dodi here in Tzfat, and we don't have the time to dissect the Lecha Dodi, which we need hours for to dissect the Lecha Dodi. We would expect him to write Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad. Zachor starts out as it says in the Parshat Yitro, first Zachor, and then Shamor in Ve'et Hanan, when Moshe repeats the Aseret HaDibrot. So most people think and say Shamor v'Zachor because of the Shin of Shamor, which is the first letter of Shlomo Halevi, the acrosticon of the Lecha Dodi. Shlomo, Halevi, who wrote the Lecha Dodi, his first letter is Shin, so that's why he started out with Shamor v'Zachor. But no, it's probably not that. As we learned from this book, the best book that's written on the Lecha Dodi, a whole book written, not a biography of Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz that we still need, but a whole book on the Lecha Dodi, its inner meaning, written by Professor Reuven Kimmelman. It's written in Hebrew, and came out from Hebrew University a while ago. And he tells us that there are other reasons why it says Shamor v'Zachor and not Zachor v'Shamor. Let me just maybe quote and explain just one of the sentences in Hebrew. Sikumo shel davar. Shamor misamen laila. Shamor is the nighttime. Kala, it symbolizes the Kala, the bride. Hashchina, the holy presence. Hashchina is the bottom and upper line of Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz all the time. Hashchina. Malchut, kingdom. Ve'ha-he, and the he in the Shema Havaya, in the Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. But Zachor is the daytime, so it should be after. Zachor mesamen yom. Chatan, the groom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, himself. Tiferet Yisod of the Sfirot. Ve'havav b'shem ha'avaya. And the Vav in the Shem of Hashem, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. And I suggest this is the book if you want to really understand the inner meaning of the Lecha Dodi and what Elkabetz meant in this very famous poem. You know, he wasn't really so much a poet. He was a great Talmid Chacham, but he's the one that wrote this very famous poem, Lecha Dodi, here in Tzfat. And we talked about where I think he wrote it, probably atop of Tzfat on the Mitzudah, where you could see from there, a vantage point where you could look for the Shekhinah. So that's one thing that I want to start out with. Shlomo Elkabetz wrote the Lecha Dodi here in Tzfat, but he lived for a lot of years outside of Tzfat. He only came to Tzfat in his 30s. Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz was probably born around 1500, most probably in Saloniki, from a Spanish Sephardi family who was exiled from Spain in 1492. His grandfather was a printer in Spain. His father was a Dayan in Saloniki, Moshe. His grandfather is Shlomo, and so he's named after his grandfather. By the way, the name El Kabetz reminds us, of course, Kibbutz Galuyot, a gathering of the exiles, El Kabetz. And we have the El Kabetz family in Israel. We even have El Kabetz members here in Tzfat today. A number of them are with us here in Tzfat. So El Kabetz in Hebrew, a beautiful name, Kibbutz Galuyot. But it could be that originally maybe the name was El Capso in Cabasso in Spanish, meaning head, or the head of a family, or the head of a community. And so the roots are from Spain, like most of the other great rabbis in Saloniki and in Tzfat. He was born about 1500. That means he was about 12 years younger than his Chevruta, Rabbi Yosef Karo, who he met in Saloniki, and they learned together in Saloniki, and they probably had the Tikkun Leil Shavuot in 1534 in Saloniki, although some say in Nikopol in Bulgaria. Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz gets married at the age of 29 or so, 1529, and in these years when he's in Saloniki and in Adrianople and Adirna, okay, in the area of northern Spain and western Turkey today, he wrote a number of books, Perushim, Brit HaLevi. He wrote a midrash on Haggadah of Pesach, Kabbalah. Manot HaLevi. He wrote first Manot HaLevi, which is a perush on Megillat Esther, and he gave this Manot HaLevi as a present to his bride's family. The Kohen family, Rabbi Yitzhak Kohen. Rabbi Yitzhak Kohen was a well-to-do person, an important part of the Jewish community in Saloniki, and he married his wife. We don't know the names of the wives. At least I don't know. Many of the wives and many of the ladies and the women, we don't know their names. Shlomo Elkabetz's daughter was also well known afterward in Tzfat. We don't know her name. Sometimes we find the women's names on the tombstones if they're discovered in the cemetery. Okay, like the sister behind Vital, I mentioned already, who was called, her name was Rene. We know that from her tomb, from a tombstone in the cemetery. And so Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz grew up in Tzfat. He had at least two rabbis. Okay, one very famous, very important rabbi, Tachik, the Rosh Yeshiva of Saloniki. He learned in his yeshiva, but he also mentions another rabbi, Rabbi Moshe El-Bilada, who was probably his teacher in his younger age until he was about 10, 11 years old. He mentions him in a drasha, okay, a sermon that he gave in Saloniki, a farewell sermon before he left Saloniki to go up to Eretz Israel, okay, going first to Yosef Karo and then coming up to Eretz Israel, okay, in the 1530s, and we have his farewell sermon given on Parshat Vayakel. He talks about the Mishkan, and he talks about the Mishkan, then he mentions the Beit HaMikdash that isn't here anymore, okay, the Charev, it's in ruin, and he says we have to go to Eretz Israel for redemption, to build the Beit HaMikdash. And he did. Okay? Many prayed in Chutz La'aretz all the time for redemption, but he felt that he has to go to Eretz Israel for the redemption, for the Geula. For him, the themes of exile and redemption were the main themes throughout his life. And in Saloniki, he even wrote a kina, a lamentation, although he was born in 1500, 8 years after the expulsion. But he heard, he lived and talked to the people who still remembered Spain, and it shook him very hard, and he wrote a whole kina, a whole lamentation on the exile and giving hope for Beulah, for redemption, and trying to explain the hardships of the Anusim, the conversals, and thinking how to help them out all the time. So Shlomo Elkabetz has a whole part of his life, his younger years, writing Perushim, writing books, and even Lamentations poem. Yes, he was a poet, but he didn't write hundreds of poems, like Shabbaziv, Teiman. Okay? He was a big Talmid Chacham. He also wrote Ayelet Ahavim, he wrote Perush for Shir HaShirim. So he has a whole list of books and Perushim that he wrote, and things that he wrote also that they were never printed, and things that I think got lost. So the Shlomo Elkabetz was already an important Mekubal, he was an important Kabbalist already in Saloniki before he came up to Eretz Israel in his late 30s. But Yosef Karo was already 47 when they both came up to Eretz Israel. I wanted also to mention that important things happened to Reb Shlomo Elkabetz before he came up to Eretz Israel, things that influenced him greatly, even afterward when he went to the Chadudi here in Tzfat. It wasn't that he all of a sudden woke up. We had years of contemplation in Saloniki. I already mentioned one of the most important people he and Rabbi Yosef Karo met was Shlomo Molcho. We talked about him, I think, last time. And Shlomo Molcho, also a Kabbalist, who felt that the Mashiach is coming now, and we have to do things now to even push away the enemy. For them, the enemy was even the Ottoman Empire, and they even went to the Pope, Shlomo Molcho, the David HaRouveni, and in the end, Shlomo Molcho was burned at the stake. And that influenced greatly Yosef Karo and Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz. So that's one thing, but maybe the most important event that influenced him and Rabbi Yosef Karo, I already mentioned this and we talked about this, is the Tikkun Leil Shavuot that took place maybe in Saloniki or in Nikopol, together Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz and Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Chavruta, when they were sitting and learning in the night of Shavuot, maybe 1533 in Saloniki, or maybe a year or two later, maybe in Nikopol. And there, with some others, came the Magid, the angel mentor, appears, not appears, he doesn't show himself, but he starts talking like a bat kol from above, and the talking comes out, the sound comes out of the throat of Rabbi Yosef Karo. We know this only because Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz wrote about this later in his whole epistle that he described, where he describes this event. We also know about it from later on, from Yosef Karo in the Magid Misharim, but the epistle is the official record we have of this very, very important event. I think this event brought about their, I don't think, for sure this event brought about their going up to Eretz Israel, and I like to say that that year when they came to Eretz Israel, 1536, in the end it took them some time to get there, but they got here in 1536. That's the year that begins the golden age of Tzfat, when Rabbi Yosef Karo and Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz come. It's years before the Ari comes. Rabbi Yaakov Beilav is in Tzfat. There are other rabbis in Tzfat, sure, but these two great people, both of them are people delving into Halacha and Kabalah. Yeah, Elkabetz, more Kabbalah, but also Halacha. Rabbi Yosef Karo, maybe more Halacha, but also Kabbalah. And they both go up to Tzfat, and they influence greatly what happened here. Rabbi Yosef Karo becomes the Av Beitin. They go and they both learn in yeshiva of Rabbi Yaakov Berav. Elkebetz goes more into the Kabbalah, and he learns a lot with his brother-in-law, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero married Rabbi Shlomo Elkebetz's sister. So that's how we know that the sister also came to Tzfat. We don't know so much. I'd like to know more about the family relations, and we have descendants today of Elkebetz all over the world, especially here in Israel. And so we know about his sister. I don't think we know the name. I don't know the name of the sister, but that's the wife of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, the great Kabbalist, who was here in Tzfat already before. And for all I know, I think we know, scholars think that he was born in Tzfat. So maybe, we're not so sure. I'd like to see a biography of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero himself. And of course, Moshe Cordovero, of course, is from a Spanish family. But in any case, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero and Rabbi Shlomo Elkebetz are brothers-in-law, and they do things together. Not only learn together, they also go out to the Kibbutz Tzadikim together, and they lie down on the Kvarim. Okay, they do hishtatchut. L'shtateach means not only to visit the Seit Tehillim, but also to mamash physically lie down on the tomb. To lie down with the hands and feet separated, and that's what they used to do. We have this recorded in Sefer Gerushin, written by the Ramak. Gerushin, not in terms of divorce, but the opposite, going out to the fields, to go out, to be divorced out into the fields for contemplation and for visiting the Kibbutz Tzadikim, where you can contemplate and meditate and learn and become close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So we have this book, Sefer Gerushin, written by the brother-in-law Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, but Rabbi Shlomo Elkebetz accompanies him in this whole doing. And so Rabbi Shlomo Elkebetz is here in Tzfat doing things, influencing. I like to say, I have no proof, but I have a feeling that Rabbi Shlomo Elkebetz, his main followers were youngsters, okay? Because he used to go out to the field all the time. And he used to trek up to the Mitzuda and look for the Shekhinah there. And you had to be in good physical shape to go out with him. And I think the youngsters followed him. Sure, there were the Talmidim who learned in Yeshiva of Rabbi Yosef Karo, Talmidim from all over the world, even from Teiman. We know of even from Teiman, from Adin, they came to learn in the Yeshiva of Rabbi Yosef Karo. And there they more sat and learned Talmud and all the poskim of them until Rabbi Yosef Karo himself finishes up the Beit Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch and the other things that he wrote. And so we have this fermentation, we have this togetherness of these great people living here together, each one doing his own thing, but it's not that each one did something by itself and he didn't know what was going on in other fields. Rabbi Shlomo Elkebetz was a great Talmid Chacham, besides his being a poet and a Kabbalist. And this we know from his books. We even know that his daughter, again, whose name I don't know, but his daughter was also someone who used to sit and listen to the shiurim of Rabbi Chaim Vital. She also learned Kabbalah from others. And first of all, this is interesting to know that ladies came to hear the shiurim of the great rabbis of Tzfat. And we know that she talked to other ladies about Rabbi Chaim Vital and his greatness. The daughter of Shlomo Elkabetz says to someone sitting next to her, this person, Rabbi Chaim Vital, how could he ever die? He has to live forever. And she hints that maybe he himself is the Mashiach. Rabbi Chaim Vital writes a lot about the possibility of the Mashiach in his time, hinting that maybe he himself is the Mashiach ben Yosef. But that's a story about Rabbi Chaim Vital. So that's his, a little bit about his family. I would think that Shlomo Elkabetz also had his own yeshiva. But I don't know, I can't point out today a synagogue which is named after him, the synagogue of Elkabetz, like we can point out the synagogue of the Alshech, or the two synagogues of the Ari, or the Beit Knesset Hagdolah, the big shul of the Abu Hav, where the Abu Hav Sefer Torah was, or the Beit Yaakov synagogue, which probably was near the Ari Sephardi synagogue, okay, where the Mabit, Rabbi Moshe Mitalani, used to be. We talked about him also. He has a new biography, the Mabit. Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz, maybe he went from shul to shul, and maybe he had his own yeshiva, where he just went out to the fields and he taught there. Like I've already said, in one of these outings he had, when he went up probably to the top of the Metzudah, looking for the Shekhinah, looking for a physical Shekhinah to restart the redemption, mamash, physically, that was his longing. So that's when he had his He'ara, he had this from Hashem, Ruach Hashem, and he composed, he wrote, and maybe he composed also the lyrics, or certainly the words of the Chadudi, which has a full inner meaning and a few meanings to it. He probably, when he wrote these words of the Chadudi, he meant a number of things that you can understand from each of the stanzas. Okay? Not only Galut, Geula, and Shabbat, and Yerushalayim. Some say that Yerushalayim is not mentioned purposely. Yerushalayim itself, you won't find the word, the name Yerushalayim inside the Chadudi, but I think he refers to Yerushalayim. He's referring also to Tzfat. He's wanting for the Shekhinah to appear. That's why he looks for the Shekhinah from the Metzudah, from the best vantage point. The Ari came around afterward. Okay? If he wrote the Chadudi in the 1540s, the Ari only came 25, 30 years later. But he loved the Chadudi. It was here already, and he used to sing it also. And as Rabbi Chaim Vital mentions, that the Ari decided to bring in, to welcome the Shekhinah on Kabbalat Shabbat with the Chadudi, not at the top, but down where today the Holy Alshech Shul is, in the Chakal Tapuchim Kadishin. That's written in the Rabbi Chaim Vital, who was with the Ari in 1570, 1571, those years when the Ari was here, and he did the Kabbalat Shabbat. I'd like to say, maybe to end up in saying, Shlomo Elkabetz, one of the greatest Kabbalists of all time, okay? If the Ari wasn't here with us in Tzfat, would we sing the Chadudi today? I hope so, I think so, but I'm not sure, because since the Ari joined in singing the Chadudi and the Kabbalat Shabbat, it spread out to the world. And some people forget, some people think wrongly that it's the Ari who wrote the Chadudi, but it's Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz who came up with this poem. I think maybe some people say it's the most beautiful poem we have, in at least in the liturgy, in the tefillah of Judaism. My friend Aaron Botzer likes to say that there are more than 500 rhymes for tunes to the Chadudi, not only Carlebach, but all over the world, wherever Jews are, they sing the Chadudi, written by Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz here in Tzfat in the 1540s. And just to end up, Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz relatively had a long life. He passed away probably in 1584. And if he was born in 1500 in Saloniki, that means he lived to an age of 84, pretty ripe. In Tzfat, kacha, okay? But like the Alshech, like the Yosef Karo, the Alshech almost reached until his 80s, Rabbi Shlomo Elkabetz until 1584, and he continued influencing Kabbalah and Tzfat and the communities here in Tzfat during that very influential 16th century here in Tzfat. Toda.
מעניין. אבל היינו מספרים את הסיפור. בוא נעשה את הסיפור שלנו. לא סיפרתי את הסיפור של הערבי. מכיר? הערבי שעבד במפעל וגילה שהוא נין.
שהוא, רגע, אתה מדבר סיפור של אלקבץ?
על נין שלו שחי עכשיו.
עוד פעם, תגיד, תספר, אני לא מכיר.
בוא נעשה את זה ביחד, זה סיפור אמיתי מאוד.
אתה רוצה
אולי,
לספר?
כן.
ספר, אני פה מקשיב.
שב איתי. אני הולך לצרף את זה לשיר. Okay, amazing information. Thank you again, Rabbi Yosef. There's a story that I want to add. We know here from Tzfat of a person that lived here in Tzfat, and it's a story that happened here in Israel not too many years ago, of an Arab boy that grew up in a family here in the north of Israel. And let's just say he was the youngest boy, and he wasn't treated so well by his brothers and by his father. And at a certain point, because of this relationship at home, he had to leave home. And he went down towards the center of the country, towards Ramat Gan, Bnei Brak, Petach Tikva, and he was working in a factory there. And he got closer and closer to one of his Haredi Jewish colleagues. And it ended up that this guy was invited, this Arab boy was invited for Shabbat to his colleague's house. So they go to the Beit Knesset, and they go through the Tefillah, Kabbalah Shabbat, they come to the house, they do Kiddush, they do Shitchal, Shalom Aleichem, they do Kiddush, and this Arab boy asks, can we sing that song again? So the Baal Bayit thinks he's talking about Shalom Aleichem. He starts to sing Shalom Aleichem. He says, no, not that one, the one from the synagogue. From Kabbalah Shabbat, the Chadodi. So they sing it again, and he starts to cry, and he doesn't know. He says, the song is so powerful, I don't know what's going on with me. After a while of continuing this relationship, this Arab boy decides he wants to convert. And one time he goes to visit his family. I think these Arabs, I think they were Syrian because I think, as the story goes, they left their village to go celebrate the holiday, and they were coming back. So in the time that they were away, his mother stayed in Israel. He was able to go and speak with his mother without having the abuse from his father and his brothers. And he told her of what's going on in his life and how he's connected to this Jewish man and he wants to convert. And she says, you don't need to convert, you're a Jew.
Because you're Jewish.
Because I'm Jewish. I married your father and I raised you, you never did this, but I'm Jewish. So he now comes back to his Haredi friend Bnei Brak and tells him, I'm a Jew. He says, listen, it's not that simple. It doesn't work like that. We have to prove it. You have to get some proof. So he goes back to his mother. His mother says, all I have is this. This is me and my parents at my great-great-grandfather's grave, and it's in Tzfat. And it's a picture of a family with her in the picture in front of the Tzion in Tzfat. So now he brings this picture back. He says, look, my mother says this is her and her parents in front of our great-great-grandfather's kever in Tzfat. So he says, do you know who it is? No. Let's go to Tzfat, let's find this picture, let's match the picture. And it turns out that it was the Elkabetz's kever,
Next to the
right next to the Arizah, and that was his connection, and he understood that Yechadudi, to begin with, the song that got him so passionate that Shabbat, to begin the whole entire story, was written by his great-great-grandfather.
ממש fantastic. It's a true story.
This is one of
It's not a legend.
No, this is a true
It's not
story.
like a Tzfat legend.
I don't know the band personally, but one of my
And
closest
you
friends here in
don't know
Tzfat.
the village, but village.
No, but I can get the information. One of my closest friends here in Tzfat knows this man personally, and he.
No, יפה מאוד.
Sure.
Well, like I said, there are descendants of Elkabet all over Israel. I didn't mean that, but
No.
יפה מאוד.
Thank you very much for being here.
יפה מאוד.
All right.
אני לא
רצית
הכרתי
מה?
את זה, לא הכרתי.
כן,
לפני הרבה שנים? לא.
20-30 שנה האחרונים, אבל... נגיד החבר שלי שמכיר אותו, הוא בן 36, והם היו חברים טובים, אני לא מאמין שהוא הרבה יותר גדול או צעיר ממנו.
במג'ד אל-כרום, לא רק ביאטה, בדרום הר חברון.
כן.
במג'ד אל-כרום יש בכפרים שבגליל, יש שם לא מעט יהודים.
אני זוכר שבתור לוחם...
אני לא אומר את זה בפומבי.
כן.
אבל...
אני זוכר שבתור חייל, בתור לוחם, הרבה מהמחבלים שהיינו עוצרים הם היו יהודים. האמא יהודיה. אתה נכנס לבית ואתה קולט. יש לה תעודת זהות. האמא, וקוראים לה שושנה או משהו, היא מגדלת מחבל חמאס. מפחיד.
אתה מכיר את הספר הזה?
לא, אבל אני רציתי להגיד לך, פעם אבוהב פינו ספרים, ואני הלכתי ולקחתי מה שראיתי. ספר ככה גודל, גדול, כמו מסכת.
ספר חדודי?
לחדודי על פי קבלה, יש קצת ולאות והכל, יש לי. רוצה
יש לי
לראות
גם
אותו?
אותו.
הכחול הזה?
חשבתי שאני הולך יש לי אותו.
נעשה חיפוש?
אבל קשה מאוד להבין ממנו.
פחד, אני רק...
אולי אתה תבין.
לא, יש מצב, אבל אני אגיד לך מה המציאות. יש מצב שאני אבין חלקים שם, אני יודע שזה ספר הרבה יותר עמוק ממה שאני יכול להתפחד, אבל דבר אחד ברור, אני פותח אותו, אני מקבל עירה עילאית שאני מפחד בכלל לנסות לקרוא. יש לי את הספר שעתיים ולא...